You are listening to Wicked Psychotherapists, a podcast where two psychotherapists show you that taking care of and learning about mental health doesn't have to be wicked hard.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Wicked Psychotherapists. If you've been here before, you know that we do talk about mental health topics and different trends. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Tanya Dos Santos.
Hi, I'm Erin Gray.
So today, let's get to it. Continuing in our informal series of flick shows that have mental health themes and that we can talk about. And we decided to look at the show with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I do have to say, I was not interested in this at all at first. I first saw this and I went past it several times. It was only until I actually watched the documentary about Arnold Schwarzenegger that's also on Netflix. We're doing a lot of promo. We're not.
Come on, Netflix.
But I really liked the documentary and I was really surprised that he was really funny and he was really open about who he is as a person. And so I kind of was like, let me give FUBAR a try. And I was pleasantly surprised. I really liked it. What about you? How did you find it?
I actually did the opposite. I found FUBAR and I was like, I like a couple of the actors and then I seen them in things and I was like, well, do I want to watch or not? And I actually watched the Arnold documentary after, and I was pleasantly surprised with that as well.
Okay. Came about it different ways, but same result. That's good. Good. So let's get into it and talk about some of the mental health themes, which would be for us kind of family interactions, maybe some of the friendships, things like that we noticed. Of course, the biggest one is the father-daughter relationship between Luke, the dad, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Emma, the daughter. And there is definite tension from the start. You can kind of see that there's a lot of different things that they both don't know about each other. And they have this seemingly on the surface very pleasant relationship where she's kind of this golden child. She's very perfect at a lot of things. He's like, oh, this is my little girl. I'm going to get her I think he got her like a birthday present when he showed up at her birthday party. And it was a Cuisinart kind of something to like bake cakes. And he was like, remember our weekly tradition of baking cakes? And she's like, oh yeah. And you could tell she's kind of faking it a little bit. So, you know, there's
don't really
something
do
else
that
going
anymore.
on. Yeah. And yeah, just his vision of her definitely seems to be of his perfect little girl. And you can tell there's something lingering there that she's maybe hiding at first. And so then what do we begin to discover? Because the general audience, the characters, they don't know that Luke, Arnold Schwarzenegger, is in the CIA. Right? He's been in the CIA this whole time. Due to the secrecy and all the away assignments, it caused the eventual divorce between Emma's mom, his ex-wife, and there seems to be a lot of time that was missed with his family because of that, but they don't realize that he is in the CIA. And so he's retiring. He's like going on, they kind of reel him in and say, oh, go on this one last mission. And then there is a huge discovery when he is on this last mission. What is that?
He discovers his daughter is doing the same thing that he does. It's shocking because it seems like he is almost more upset that she lied to him and than that she's doing something dangerous. That's interesting because he's lied to the entire family forever, his identity and everything. And his daughter's having to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic. He comes upon this brutal kind of boxing match and he's seeing this woman beat up all these dudes. And then she turns around and it's his daughter. And he's like, whoa, that is not my precious little violin playing daughter. It's a big shock. And then it forces a realization between the two of them that they don't know each other at all. And the different facades they've had to put on, the different personas are completely the opposite of what they've known their whole lives up until that point. I think that the father, Luke, has different dynamics, and he feels he needs to help her. He feels that he needs to fix everything for her. He's kind of I want to be the big strong dad for my little girl, and she's very much like, you haven't been with the family for this long. You thought I was, off playing the violin and having my perfect life. I don't need your help. She's kind of reacting to abandonment, and kind of in that regard. It then becomes something else where it gets noticed that the two of them do not get along. There's a lot of tension, but their kind of upper level management is like, well, you two actually work really well together. You have this amazing set of skills. The two of them are like top CIA agents. And so they want them to go to therapy. And what happens there in therapy?
Well, it's interesting because they have a therapist in the meeting with all the other agents, and he doesn't let anybody know he's a therapist at first, or their psychologist. Just observing how they interact with each other in the meeting. And then it's like, surprise, I've been watching you the whole time. And guess what? You're going to be doing therapy with us. And he has puppets. It's kind of ridiculous. He has puppets that resemble each of them. And so they each get opposite. Emma has Luke and Luke has Emma. And they just have to tell each other, kind of like the empty chair techniques that some therapists use, where instead of an empty chair, it's a puppet. He wants to have them share exactly how they feel, which you could tell the therapist like, oh, I'm so brilliant. This is going to work. Awesome.
He was so proud of himself.
Yeah, he was so happy. And so like, yeah, I'm the best therapist in the world. Emma's pretending like she's her dad. And then he's like, oh, making fun. And then it's just,
they use it to mock each other.
Yeah.
They really are just, kind of taking it away, just expressing their anger at each other as opposed to trying to understand the other person's feelings, which is the point of the exercise.
And in real therapy, you probably wouldn't go straight to puppets. It probably would be some other techniques that might be used.
Maybe they're on a time crunch, or because it's the CIA and because this is a total fictional. It was really funny because the puppets, when he pulled them out, they're made to look exactly like Luke and Emma. And they ask at one point, did you spend money on that? And he's like, no,
that's not work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that would be trying to understand that. So yeah, that was a little strange that he just kind of immediately pulled that out.
Yeah. I mean, like with father-daughter relationships too, it's very common though, or with any family relationship where you get stuck on having the person, you view them in a certain way. Luke is like, okay, my daughter's a baking violinist. I don't know if that's called. They both had these different expectations or different thoughts. And that happens a lot with parents and family where you either don't let the person grow up or you don't really know who they are in current time or in real life.
I think the time away, Luke was away from the family. I think Emma probably took that as a sense of, well, if you reject me, I'm going to reject you, because she didn't realize it was the job. She thought it was maybe he put the job above the family, which in a sense he did. I think you have to with the CIA. And so she rejected him knowing her on a different level. And he just was not there enough to know. And so she would only present to him that side of, I'm perfect and I get straight A's and I play the violin and I bake. And I think she had told him the job was like, she was like working for like a nonprofit or something.
Helping get in water or something.
Like water resources. And even her fiance was a reflection of that. This is who I should be with. Like, he was a very nice, understanding guy, and probably chosen based on what she felt like her expectations, the expectations of like her parents, or maybe as how she's viewed by her father as this like perfect girl who just has a nice husband. And meanwhile, she's off of the CIA and getting into boxing matches and really doing some rough work undercover and physically, mentally, emotionally having to maintain being this exterior of being calm and working under these strenuous conditions. But so it's the complete opposite of what she's viewed as.
Yeah, that also might be, she might have chosen her fiance because he is complete opposite of what she's doing all day. Calm, comfortable, the outcome.
Yeah. She may have had kind of a need for that and said, okay, I need to kind of balance this out a little bit. That would be an attraction there. I do wonder, with Emma kind of being so upset with her dad, there's a running theme of her saying, because you abandon your family or you don't know how to make a marriage work, like speaking to her mother and things like that.
Right.
is she discovers she doesn't really know how to make her own relationship work. And so it's
Right.
kind of all these things she's very mad at. She also didn't really learn how to navigate them herself. And that might be the source fueling the anger, which would be a very therapeutic thing to discover and to talk about.
Yes.
And I think that's really interesting to point out that if you can be upset about, I think, these patterns in your family, but if you don't go to the root and try and understand them yourself, and either through therapy or through whatever means, of course, we're going to say therapy because we're therapists, but through whatever means to kind of discover what that is and how it affects you, it will likely play itself out in the same way in your own life. And you can be aware of something, you can be mad at something, but that doesn't really help you to navigate it yourself and say, okay, what do I want to do? Not necessarily even just differently, but how do I understand this and how do I want to proceed kind of thing. I think Emma is discovering that. She's really out there on this wild mission, which involves a lot of danger, a lot of risk, and they're playing out these themes in between. There's these comical moments of them snapping at each other and kind of working through this dialogue of, I feel abandoned by you from Emma, and Luke saying, you don't understand. I've had to be away because of this job, which you're now understanding when you're now seeing in your own relationship.
You're in it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's really about these missions and everything, but it's also about what they are discovering about their own relationship and themselves individually too, as people. There's a lot of different things that they start to be able to work through the relationship, and they maybe get to a point where they're starting to understand each other. They start to like get into like this common ground.
And there becomes, I don't know if it's respect but you could see that there's a shift where Emma starts letting her guard down or taking her wall away a little bit to bridge the gap of the relationship. And at the same time, I think that's when Luke is realizing that he still wants to be with his ex-wife, but that's a different story and a different theme. Emma actually seems to be less angry about that as well.
Yeah, I think she's maybe coming to an understanding. She's also struggling with feeling attracted to the coworker whose name I cannot think of right now, but he's handsome.
Yeah, I remember like his best friend was Rue. I can't remember what his name.
Yes, I remember Rue, and that's Fortune played by Fortune Fiends. What's her name? Fortune
Feinster.
Feinster. Yeah, I remember. Those are their coworkers. This other handsome man, which I cannot remember his name, but he is very good looking. And Emma there's kind of a building attraction there. I think they do end up kissing, and it's revealed in some way, somehow it's found out by Luke that Emma has kind of had these feelings for this coworker that's also on all these missions and everything. And there's a playing theme that these two are kind of helping each other out and going through this dangerous situation. They understand each other as well. And what kind of strains the relationship again after they have come to a common understanding is Luke tells Emma's fiance about the kiss, which I really understand why he did that. I don't know if he just felt like, you know what, I haven't been held accountable. I'm going to have her be held accountable.
I don't know what the fault could have been besides to be like, hey, to have him break up with her.
And I think he was actually feeling like, I really feel for you. You're a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I think he wanted him to know the truth.
Yeah.
But
and it could be that too.
I don't know if he just had like a moment, or maybe he saw his own kind of accountability in his own life and maybe projected that a little bit onto her and made that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the part I didn't really, I don't know, it didn't really flow for me, and maybe I missed something there.
Right.
It didn't really play into it, but I'm sure there was something. So then that further strains the relationship, and it was kind of tough because I think that they have to work through things and they have to go through these missions and they have to be able to work together. And then I think they have to come to a common understanding of, hey, we've got to get through this.
Right.
And there's also another component in here where there is a character named Boro, I believe, who is the son of a Colombian drug lord on a mission that Luke had taken way before Emma had joined the CIA.
Yeah, when he was when Boro was just a little boy.
Yeah, and he was responsible for Boro's father's death, unbeknownst to Boro, I think out of guilt and to kind of keep the illusion of, he was, undercover, that like, hey, I'm still with you kind of thing. He took him under his wing kind of like a son, this guy
Yeah.
Boro. And he grew up and he's now kind of following in his father's footsteps and kind of going off the chain. That's where Emma had been inserted for her own mission. At this point, when Luke reconnects with him as kind of like his son, like he sent him off to school, he was trying to get him away from that life kind of
Right.
thing. Of course, there's his job kind of was his job role was to be able to discourage that as well. But I think there
Right.
was also a personal component there too. He really took him under his wing, and there's that kind of like father son kind of
Yeah.
dynamic there as
Yeah.
well.
It is. It's a lot of guilt of here's this person who I, fostered in this relationship and tried to take care of, and then he turns into this villain or something. And then I also thought it was interesting when Emma and Boro, it's like almost like siblings meeting, like
Mhm.
very dysfunctional siblings, but then they have to figure out what their roles are with it. And, it's not very, very good. Like it doesn't end well, but it's
Yeah. Yeah. It actually ends up in a choice where Luke has to make, and these are just gigantic spoilers, people. So we'll have to that
thing.
because if you haven't watched this, I mean, you probably would listen to this if you watch this, right? But these are all just huge. Like we're just going through the plot. We're just ripping through it. So I think there's he has to make a choice, Luke, between his daughter and this kind of faux relationship he's fostered with Boro, and he chooses his daughter when he's very much having to make that choice. And I think that's a little symbolic there. I think it's psychologically with Emma, she was like, he chose his family over
Right.
like his job
Or,
kind of
yeah.
thing. Yeah. And that was maybe the final turning point in that. Or I don't, did that happen before the kiss? No, I think that was kind of the final turning point where it solidified the relationship and, kind of that choice of, hey, I think Emma needed to feel safe that they had a good
Yeah.
relationship, a good
Yeah.
basis there.
And maybe she'll let him in to be her father again, not be so angry.
Yeah, and that includes letting her see who she really is, right? And the different aspects of her and not because I think a lot of times when people put up that facade with family members or maybe that's how they interact with the world, it's because they're afraid of people. This perfectionistic way of living is kind of very much like accept me because I'm afraid of what is behind here. You're gonna that's a mess or it's not
Mhm.
perfect, so you can't criticize this because this
Right.
is perfection. And I think there was just a lot of working through that. It's a good plot, it's kind of like action center, but it's these kind of mental health themes playing in the background. And
Yeah.
so I thought that was really interesting how
Yeah.
this kind of plays out all throughout. Um,
Yeah. Well, and
and
it makes you think of like, probably makes people stop and think of their own relationship with friendships or parents or do I show my true self to my parents all the time or to my friends or to my
Mm,
coworkers or
yeah.
and that's the same. I mean, how many of us as kids didn't really even know what our parents did for work or haven't really as adults don't really let our family or parents know every part of us.
Yeah, if that's the case, if or your guardians, whoever it is, you may not have that connected relationship where there has to be that safety, that trust to be able to say, "Hey, here's who I am," kind of thing. Is that something that you've countered with clients at all? Like having, kind of different, maybe feeling like they have to put up a facade if perform maybe with different members of their family or friends?
I think so. I think because that is something where it's difficult because you have to be, I have heard that different themes of that where you might be a certain person with coworkers or maybe mom friends or there's at Thanksgiving or if you're going home to visit your family.
Yeah, those are definitely like I think
Yeah.
there's natural
But
shifts.
but I have that is something that clients and I have worked on in the past of having to navigate the different relationships and how to still be true to yourself, but also maybe there's a reason you're guarding yourself and you don't want to share everything because maybe you're not ready to be fully vulnerable to them or maybe don't want to let them in for some reason. And that's okay too.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be, there's dysfunction. We deal with a lot of dysfunctional family dynamics or people that we talk to that are from dysfunctional family units or have dysfunctional family setups within their own family. And I think that being able to discover and put up boundaries is a huge one to say, okay, who can, it's almost a boundary to say, who can I let in and who can I not, or who can I kind of keep at a particular distance or kind of that type of thing. I have to say I do find a lot of that with my clients, when I am talking to them that I think there are a lot of family things going on where they may say I talk to my mom every day. She's great. This is just an example, not from what anyone said. um and then you go a little deeper, you talk about what they talk about, then you realize the mom is actually putting them down constantly, is kind of telling them how to run their life, is making them feel kind of guilty about not being in their life, kind of these unhealthy dynamics that are contributing to what the client is saying is bothering them, and you kind of have to make a connection for them in therapy to say, hey, you know, maybe it might have to involve putting in particular boundaries with your mom, maybe reducing the amount of time
Mhm.
you talk to them, just in that example, right?
Right.
So I think in this instance with Emma and Luke, they have a very unique setting, right?
Mhm.
Where they kind of are working this out. Not only do they get puppets and stuff and therapy and have that, but also they're in the field. They're having to literally, their lives depend on each other.
Yeah.
And I think they have to recognize each other's plight. They have to really see
Yeah.
what's
Well,
going on.
their emotions are heightened during this. And if it were real life, it would probably feel like if they were going to therapy, it would probably be on hyperdrive. So because you're living everything, reliving everything in the past all at once by
Yeah.
having these possible traumatic events happening, that it could be like, okay, well, we need to figure this out, and we could put all the other issues that we're dealing with on the back burner, but maybe this one scary thing might help us to resolve some tension or issues that we haven't resolved in the past, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think, the kind of the way that it's set up in the series, it in and of itself, I think lends itself to saying, okay, we can kind of work this out in a very unique way that I don't think that many father daughters or whatever parent children, I don't think they really have that opportunity, right? I think it
Yeah.
would be kind of more in a therapy setting if they are getting help for it. But it is really unique. It's kind of a cool way of looking out how their dynamics affect them and how it plays out in different settings and in different ways, especially in this extraordinary setting that's unique where father daughter are both in the CIA and working
Mhm.
together. I thought it was really good. I do have to say though, FUBAR, the title. Okay, so this is totally an aside. Is FUBAR, what
F
is
it.
that?
It's a military term, and
Fu-
it's like effed up, like that, effed up beyond all recognition.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't know how. I was just like, when is that going to come in? I didn't know that. So I was like, I don't understand. And he says something at the end, like it's all FUBAR or something. And I'm like, that must mean like it's all effed up, right? Like,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I was like, where does that come from? And where is
Yeah.
but
It's, I
okay, now
believe,
that puts it in context.
it's a military, it's like, because you probably don't want to be like, saying it, like this is a bad situation. So you're just like FUBAR. That's what I believe.
Ah, okay, okay. I feel like I totally missed that. I was like waiting for that to be kind of connected in there, but I guess that is kind of the background
Yeah.
context of
Because it's
it.
military, CIA. So I guess that's
Yeah,
what
that
I'm.
that I mean that definitely that fits in there, that makes a lot of sense because a lot of those situations are FUBAR.
Yeah.
So anything else that we haven't touched on that we were thinking?
I don't know. I think we covered a lot. I think we covered a lot of the show. I think, if this was in real life, that they would probably have to continue therapy outside. Now that they're out of the field, maybe they continue weekly therapy and try to figure out, work on the issues that they have in the past and try to have a relationship of who they are today.
Yeah, absolutely. It would definitely have to be a continuation, and I wanted to say all their problems are solved. I mean, for TV land, sure, but
Right.
in real life, no, definitely not.
Right.
So that was a good kind of, we, and of course we're not, these are fictional characters. We're not throwing in any diagnoses here. We're just saying these are kind of the issues that we see
Right.
as mental health care providers, and just to kind of have that lens through it. But it's a really, I think it's good. I think it's a
Yeah.
good series.
It
It's
is
like it
good.
was
It
entertaining.
kind of covers it. Like if you like Arnold because you like Arnold, if you like Fortune because you like comedy, it's it's there. But then it also has a layer like, oh, I didn't realize they were gonna cover like friendship issues. I didn't realize that they were gonna, talk about family dynamics and really cover all of that. So that was unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of like the background all throughout. And yeah, I didn't expect that either. I really didn't know what to expect. I was like, this is strange. The description is something like, I don't know, like there's father-daughter discover they're in the CIA together, but I didn't know like there would be so many themes related to mental health at all. So that was really cool to discover and just kind of see. And
Yeah.
it was funny and it was action packed and
Yeah.
had a decent plot, It was
Yeah.
pretty
It's
cool.
it's fun to look at stuff that we would have normally just viewed as viewers and then to go back in a therapy lens. I kind of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, check out I don't know what it is, but that puppet scene just cracks me up and
Yeah.
I love it. And I want to go back and watch it again because the way they mock each other, the way she does Schwarzenegger's voice, it's just I really just cackled over that. It made me laugh. Um, but I thought she was pretty good. So yeah. So is that I think that'll do it.
Yeah, I think
So
that's it. I mean, so we really hope you enjoyed our show.
just make sure to subscribe and leave us a review because that really helps us out. And also follow us on Instagram, Wicked Psychotherapist, and we'll have some information on there, and we'll go from there. But
Okay.
we hope you guys have a good week. We'll see you then.